Hey guys, today we're going to review what you need to know about viruses. And I think this is a really good topic for today because, as you know, we're kind of in the midst of a pandemic virus situation. Pandemics mean that the virus or the disease that causes the virus has spread to multiple places around the world. And that's certainly what we're experiencing right now. So, what do you guys need to know about viruses for biology? Okay, probably the most important thing is that viruses are not cellular. And remember, to be alive, you have to have cells. So viruses lack cells, they're not cellular. Viruses are what we call infectious particles. And the word infectious means just what it sounds like it means. Viruses have to infect other cells in order for them to make copies of themselves, aka to reproduce. Each virus particle is actually made up of two things. There is genetic material on the inside and a container around the outside that protects and holds the genetic material. So you can kind of think of a virus as a container with some type of genetic material on the inside. Okay, viruses can't reproduce without getting inside of or infecting a host cell. So this means a virus particle sitting on your table or on your hand or something like that can't really do anything. It can just sit there. Okay, how is a virus actually built? How are these virus particles put together? Well, virus particles, as I said earlier, are made from two main parts. They contain some genetic material, which is on the inside, and they contain a protein layer on the outside, which is called the capsid. So over here on the side, if I draw a picture of a virus, you imagine some genetic material, it could be DNA or RNA, and it's surrounded by material on the outside. And this material on the outside is what we call the capsid. Okay, so the capsid is the protein on the outside, and the genetic material is what's on the inside. So in this case, I've drawn a little piece of DNA. So I think you guys get what I'm trying to draw here. Okay, viruses have genetic material, just like lots of other things that are alive, and their genetic material can be either RNA or DNA. Now, if you guys remember, humans and plants and fungi and just about everything alive that you've ever heard of has DNA only as its genetic material. But viruses can have RNA or DNA. This makes them a little weird. Okay, so that means that out there in the world causing diseases are RNA viruses and then there are DNA viruses. So there are two basic different kinds of viruses. The ones that store their genetic material as RNA and the ones that store their genetic material as DNA. Okay, the virus that causes COVID-19, this pandemic disease that we're dealing with right now, is an RNA virus. Okay, so what do viral proteins look like? What do we mean by viral proteins? Remember, these viruses have proteins on the outside that form their capsid. We talked about that in an earlier slide. And I have a picture here of the COVID-19 coronavirus. And as you can see in this picture, we have some genetic material on the inside, and then on the outside, we have this coating, which includes these blue-colored proteins. Okay, and these little blue-colored proteins, okay, act like keys. And these blue proteins on this coronavirus can fit into receptors on the cell membranes of the host cells that this virus is capable of infecting. Okay, now the coronavirus got its name from the shape of these blue-colored proteins in this picture. And these proteins act like little keys, which can open up the locks, which are the receptors on the host cells. And in this case, COVID-19, or the coronavirus, can infect humans. So that means its crown-shaped protein keys can fit into receptors in the respiratory system of humans. And that's why it makes people sick. Okay, now viruses, like everything else biological, evolve. And most of the viruses that infect humans originally infected animal species, animals that we come into contact with. And sometimes, due to evolutionary change caused by mutations, these animal viruses can jump from species, from the animal they originally infected into humans. Okay, for example, the measles virus, and I think most of you have probably heard of the measles. The measles virus originally was a virus that only infected cows. Okay, and that means that when humans, thousands of years ago, domesticated and started herding cows, they came into contact with the cow measles virus, and but this virus couldn't infect them. But a single cow measles virus mutated at some point in the past and was able to change the shape of its protein key so that it now could infect human cells. And the rest is history. We now have a new virus at some point in history. This new virus appeared and we call it measles today. Okay, so it originally came from cows. Great example of how things can evolve through mutation. Now, as we said earlier, viruses reproduce by infecting a host cell. And in this picture, you can see the virus particle right here. Okay, don't worry about the labels on here. So just think about a virus as a little particle, and it's getting inside of a host cell, and it's interacting with the host cell's DNA on the inside and changing the host cell and turning it into a virus factory. And so eventually what happens is new virus particles are then able to come out into the environment and infect new cells. So we can break this down into some easy steps here for you to remember. The first thing viruses have to do is they have to infect a host cell. To do this, they have to get inside of the host cell. Remember, they use those protein keys on their capsid to do this, kind of like a key opening a lock. Once they get inside, they use their chemistry to reprogram the host's DNA. And this forces the host cell into manufacturing more virus proteins. And if you remember, ribosomes are part of the cellular machinery that builds proteins. So the virus particles' genetic material, in this picture it's DNA, can reprogram the host cell's machinery on the inside to turn it into a virus factory. So this forces the host cell to not only copy the virus's genetic material, but also to build entirely new virus particles. And once you get new virus particles released into the atmosphere, the virus can spread from host to host. Okay, so the cell usually dies when this happens, and those new virus particles go off to infect new host cells, either in the same body, or they can get coughed or sneezed out in the case of the coronavirus and infect completely different people. Okay, so are viruses living? Well, technically no. The short answer is no. Viruses are not alive. Remember, viruses do not have cellular structure, and that's one of the characteristics of life that we've been talking about. Viruses lack the ability to reproduce on their own. They are completely dependent on their host cells to make copies of them. But viruses do have genetic material, like DNA, and this makes them biological, but they're biological without being living. Viruses play a huge role in ecosystems. They cause many diseases, which are limiting factors in population growth. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you know a little bit more now about viruses, and you can apply this to getting through this epidemic that we're dealing with right now. Thank you.